Warning: this video does contain constant stuttering, so viewer discretion is advised. Before the video starts, I just want to say that subtitles are available, so if I mispronounce or misspell a word, make sure you have subtitles on just in case. Also, check out my Instagram page at The Artistic Horseman, where I post wonderful works of art. Thanks for listening, and enjoy this video. I've been putting this up for a while, ever since I started commentary videos. For months even, I've been wanting to talk about this. Originally, I was going to include this in my list of Michael Jackson lost media, but there is so much to say about this topic that deserves its own video. This is by far one of the greatest frauds in music history. With that being said, it's no secret that when a singer or musician dies, they have hundreds if not thousands of unreleased material that has yet to be shown to the public, which leads to posthumous releases. Hell, Prince has a giant vault full of unreleased albums and songs that are still being released to this day. But in this case, unlike Prince, most of the posthumous albums were released without the approval of late artists, such as Tupac Shakur and Whitney Houston. And in recent years, posthumous releases has been popping out left and right without the permission of late young rappers such as XXXTentacion and Juice WRLD. However, in this case, there is one mystery in the music industry that surrounds the king of pop, Michael Jackson, and it surrounds his first posthumous album, Michael. After his death in June 2009, Jackson's estate announced that they will be releasing a new album titled Michael, and it were to feature 10 previously recorded tracks during his career, and later reworked for the album. The album features songs such as Hold My Hand, a bittersweet duet with Akon, and Best of Joy, one of the last songs recorded by Jackson before his passing.
Hi, I'm Teddy Riley.
I'm Akon.
My name is Eddie Casio.
Hey, this is Lenny Kravitz.
In the industry, people refer to me as Nephew.
My name is Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent.
The album was released on December 10, 2010, and it got mostly mixed if not slightly negative feedback, and it all applies to 3 tracks on the album. 3 tracks that were apparently sung by an impersonator. These tracks in particular are Keep Your Head Up, Monster featuring 50 Cent, and Breaking News. Many of Michael's associates and family members disapproved of the release and the use of an impersonator. The person who was most outraged was will.i.am, who had worked with Michael during the final recording sessions in the late 2000s. He said that the album should have never been released and said, in quote, "Michael Jackson's songs are finished when Michael says they're finished. Maybe if I never worked with him, I wouldn't have had this perspective, but he was very particular. Now that he's not part of the process, what are they doing?" After gaining awareness of the infamous songs, the MJ community was extremely outraged and dubbed the tracks the Casio tracks. After, according to Sony, the songs that feature on the 2010 album were recorded in the home studio of Jackson family friend Eddie Casio in New Jersey in 2007, and was completed after Michael's death.
This is where Michael recorded, and he also slept. And if you can imagine, here in this corner, there was just a bed put in where it was just a box spring and a mattress. It was a dream come true. It really was. You know, for years, I've been just watching him work with the other great producers, Teddy Riley, Quincy Jones. It was a dream come true to be able to record him in my home studio.
Michael Jackson had been close to the Casio family since the late 80s, and according to TMZ, Jackson and his kids stayed at the Casios for several months in 2007 and recorded the so-called tracks along with the remixes for the Thriller 25th anniversary album. One of Michael's producers, Teddy Riley, also worked on the Casio tracks for Sony's future releases. During these sessions, Teddy and Michael's nephew, Terrell Jackson, noticed that these tracks sounded nothing like Michael's vocals. It didn't take long for the estate to launch an investigation, and members of the Jackson family making statements that the tracks were fake. Despite the controversy, Teddy continued to work on the tracks, and even insisted on numerous occasions that the vocals on the tracks were Michael, but would recently admit that the vocals were sung by an impersonator.
I'm curious, people were saying that Michael's voice is fake on the track that you worked on.
Why have to only be my track?
Exactly, though,
See,
right?
I've been working
It's
with
because
him
you were there.
almost 20 years. Believe me, this is really Michael's voice.
Yeah.
Whoever says whatever,
I mean,
I really don't care what anybody say about it. I know it, and I work with him longer than anybody else who can comment about it.
yeah. So definitely it's Mike on the track,
Yes,
man.
promise you.
Is there another track coming?
Yeah, it's more tracks coming from me and
I know Akon did the one.
Akon. You got Tricky. You got Nephew, who's a great producer, and a lot of other people. Lenny Kravitz, 50 Cent.
It's going down.
It's going down.
Just stay tuned, right?
Yes.
All right, Teddy,
Sure.
man. Have a good night.
And the whole situation with the Casios, I didn't know the real authenticity of those songs. They would not prove it to me about the songs. But when I got the blessings from Mother Catherine and some of the family, I moved forward with it because, of course, they wanted to see something successful happen after Michael. So I didn't know where I was in the middle. Like, I'm always in the middle of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So right now, in August 2022, do you think that those were actually Michael's vocals or not?
If I tell you today,
Right now.
I can tell you right now that no.
No.
However, Sony Music insisted that sufficient research had been done, and they were confident that the vocals were in fact Michael. They said in the statement, quote, "We have complete confidence in the results of our extensive research, as well as the accounts of those who were in the studio with Michael, that the vocals on a new album was his own." About a month after the album's release, the impersonator's identity will later be revealed in a Facebook post that was from the supposed impersonator. So the impersonator's name is Jason Malachi, and he's an Italian-American singer who has been in the music industry since the early 2000s. On January 16, 2011, a statement appeared on Malachi's Facebook page confessing to recording the vocals. The Facebook page said, "Sheesh guys, I guess it's time to confess. I've lied to so many people, including someone today, but it was me. It was me who sang Breaking News, Keep Your Head Up, Monster, and Stay. I had an agreement with the record company, but now the cat's out of the bag. Sorry to all my fans and fellow Jackson fans." However, Malachi claimed on MySpace that his Facebook and website had been hacked. Malachi's manager, Thad Naughton, stated that Jason wants everyone to know beyond a shadow of a doubt he did not sing a single note on his album. But I highly doubt that. I mean, if you listen to Malachi's discography, he takes major inspiration from Michael Jackson, especially in his vocals.
When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. That's the time when you keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? Though it's breaking, when there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile that maybe tomorrow.
In September 2007, Malachi released a song called Mamacita that fooled many people, including a Pittsburgh radio station who believing that it was a song by Michael Jackson. According to TMZ, they said at the time it sounded exactly like Michael Jackson, and later stated it wasn't the real MJ. In 2014, a lawsuit was filed against Sony Music and MJJ Productions by a woman named Vera Saraboa, who was a fan of Michael Jackson and bought the album Michael. She became suspicious that the songs in question weren't sung by Michael himself. In the lawsuit, she also sued Eddie Cascio along with other producers who worked on the tracks for fraud. It was later revealed that Sony Music had allegedly admitted in an LA Superior Court that the 3 songs credited to Michael Jackson on his posthumous album Michael were indeed fake. In the end, the judges ruled in favor of Sony Music and the estate on the basis that Sony did not know whether Michael Jackson sang the song. The judges also ruled that Sony and the estate could not be held accountable under commercial speech that's protected by the First Amendment. But it will all change when in July 2022, the Michael Jackson estate would admit that the tracks were fake. It removed the 3 infamous Casio tracks from YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify, as a result of a continual distraction to all listeners. A CD reissue of the album was also released on September 9, 2022, and that also dropped the 3 tracks. I tried searching for CD reissues of the album without the Casio tracks, but I couldn't find anything. I also couldn't find any recent information on the lawsuit and whether or not it's still continuing. I guess it's water under the bridge now, huh, Sony? While we're on the topic of the Casio tracks, I thought I might as well bring up the infamous leaked album titled Bible. Like I mentioned earlier, Eddie Casio and others worked on dozens of impersonated songs. Some were featured on the album Michael and Bible. Bible is a tentative name given to a collection of 12 tracks produced by Casio between 2007 and 2010, and was supposedly attributed to Michael Jackson. According to Casio, the 12 tracks were written by Michael Jackson and recorded in 2007 at his family's home studio in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. But it's unknown whether or not Michael wrote these songs. The name comes from a single CD with the word Bible written on it in pen, and it was put up for auction by the Casio family several times since Jackson's death. The CD will go on to be sold to a private collector in 2018. The songs first gained attention in May 2010 when Roger Friedman of Showbiz411.com wrote that Michael Jackson recorded a whole new album of unreleased material in the fall of 2007. The songs Keep Your Head Up, Monster, and Breaking News would also appear on the album Bible. Other songs, namely Stay, All I Need, and Burn Tonight, were at one point considered for the Michael album and mixed by Teddy Riley in 2010. The other six tracks were apparently not considered for inclusion on Michael and would instead appear in this collection only as demos. By 2014, all 12 tracks have been leaked onto the internet and can now be listened to in digital form on various websites such as YouTube. While the CD of Bible, the only physical copy known to exist, remains in the hands of a private collector. The majority of Michael Jackson fans have contested that the authenticity of the tracks on Bible and discredited the songs as the work of an impersonator, with the most common allegations being levied against Jason Malachi and James Forte. But it was obviously proven that Malachi was the one who recorded these tracks. Overall, there are more questions that I have about the Casio tracks that are yet to be answered. Did Michael really wrote these tracks? Why did Casio hire Malachi to record these tracks? Were these tracks recorded before or after Michael's death? And if they were recorded before, why wasn't Michael included in these tracks? But I'm not going to get into any conspiracies, because I feel like if I do, then I'll be in a rabbit hole full of unanswered questions. All you need to know is that this is a shameless cash grab, manipulating fans into believing that these vocals are genuine, when in reality, they were genuine vocals of an impersonator. It reminds me of when producer Frank Farian manipulated the public into thinking pop duo Milli Vanilli vocals were genuine, when in reality, they were lip singing, and the original vocals were two older guys. I just want everyone to know that I'm not bashing Jason Malachi in any way. I think he's a pretty damn good singer, especially when it comes to being as close at matching the vocals as Michael Jackson. The only people I know that come that close as mimicking the vocal talents of Michael are Malachi, Marcus Williams, Jeffrey Perez, and Gene Walker. If anyone would impersonate Michael in a track, it would have to be Gene Walker. I'm still waiting on the Strawberry Fields Forever cover. I need it, Gene! Now, the Casio tracks aren't bad. In fact, barely anyone said that the songs were bad. The reason why fans hate the song is because they're being labeled as a Michael Jackson song, when that's simply not the case. Not only that this is a big issue to the MJ fan base, but it's also a major issue to the music industry in general.
This is very important because throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of completely. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice. And like Mrs. Sharpton was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stopped touring, they would totally go broken. And it's been, the record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
In a sense, I think that these songs should have belonged to a different release, but should be credited to Malachi or anyone singing the vocals, as a tribute to Michael Jackson. I also felt that these tracks should have been removed from Michael a long time ago. Either replace the tracks with new songs that were originally sung by Michael, or remove them completely. With that being said, the day after this video drops, I'll be uploading a fan-made reissued album dedicated to Bible. So go check it out once it uploads tomorrow. But anyway, that's the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed this segment. Make sure you leave a like and comment your thoughts on the Casio tracks. Also make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you won't have to miss when I upload. And go check out my Instagram page at The Artistic Horseman, where I post wonderful works of art. Until next time, thanks for watching.